Despite what your shadow might tell you, in your darkest times is when you need optimism, gratitude, and social connection the most. Hello everyone, thanks so much for joining me here today. If you're new, I'm Amanda. Welcome to the channel where we are all about shattering the mental health stigma. If you haven't already, please make sure you make sweet, sweet love to that subscribe button. Give the bell a few kisses so you aren't missing any of this content designed to help you with your mental health or help you help someone else. Today I'm going to be reacting to Disturbed, The Sound of Silence, request from one of my amazing Patreons who requested to remain anonymous. If you haven't had a chance to check out my Patreon, please make sure to do so. Link is in the description. Every single dime goes toward my mental health outreach. You get some pretty amazing perks like priority song requests and getting to do instant little Zoom calls every month with me. Disturbed is one of the few bands that when I came to this channel, I already had some kind of knowledge of. I've been introduced to so many new bands, but I already had some kind of knowledge of Disturbed, so I recognize the sound, I recognize his voice, and I've always really enjoyed everything that I am introduced to, and I've really enjoyed going through some new songs in their discography here on the channel, so I kind of imagine that this will be no exception, but let's find out. That disturbs me.
Hello, darkness, my old friend. I've come to talk with you again, because a vision softly creeping left its seeds while I was sleeping, and the vision that was planted in my brain still remains within the sound of silence. In restless dreams I walked alone, narrow streets of cobblestone, neath the halo of a street lamp. I turned my collar to the cold and damp, when my eyes were stabbed by the flash of a neon light that split the night and touched the sound of silence.
Whoa, whoa, whoa! Okay, I was gonna say, this is a whole new side of Disturbed I haven't seen before because I'm so used to their more aggressive stuff or their more rock sound, so I'm very pleasantly surprised by this. Is this song a remake? Because I feel like I've heard these lyrics before, but maybe I'm just crazy because of the Hello Darkness, My Old Friend beginning. That's very familiar, but whoa, it's not often that my opening quote is just super reflective of the lyrics, but I feel like this is largely, in my opinion, about isolating yourself from your loved ones when you're in a dark place and then convincing yourself that they don't care because you've pushed them away, so it becomes this self-fulfilling prophecy. So you think that they didn't care enough to fight for you when they usually just think that you need space. So there's this weird tug of war going on when that happens.
And in the naked light
Here's his voice.
I saw 10,000 people, maybe more. People talking without speaking. People hearing without listening. People writing songs and voices never shared. And no one dared disturb the sound
intense. His eyes are so intense. His gaze is so intense that I just feel like I can feel his emotion when I look at him. I don't feel that with all artists, but when I look at him, I can really feel like these lyrics are very personal to him. But here's the deal. What other people don't say, our brain fills in the narrative. And when we've been in that darkness for long enough, the narrative tends to be very self-deprecating. And our shadows tell us that these other people don't love us when they don't understand. So them talking without speaking, or them hearing without listening, is them not understanding how we feel or what we need. And silence is like a cancer growing. Honestly, silence is often worse than saying the wrong thing because, again, our brain fills in the gaps. So if you're not saying anything at all, if you're not hearing anything at all from that other person, we tend to assume that it's because this other person doesn't care, when maybe they just don't know how to respond themselves. And then, what was the other thing? Silent raindrops. I think that that's like the sorrowful, mournful tears.
And the people bowing to the neon god they made. And the sign flashed out its warning, and the words that it was forming. And the sign said the words of the prophets are written on the subway walls and tenement halls, and whispered in the sound of silence.
I like how they all had their own instruments and their own music, because to me that kind of represents that they all have their own sound, their own story, their own part in this that can harmonize together, that can come together, you know, to make this beautiful sound. But if nobody listens to the piece, then it's all for naught. So I feel like when we're listening to people's stories, like we do here on the channel, when we're listening to people, we're getting to hear this beautiful part of existence that we might not have experienced. But this last verse hits me really hard, because I found often that the default answer for someone of faith, so if I am to share, or even someone of faith shares their darkness and their struggles with a person of faith, so whether I have faith or I don't, if I'm sharing my struggles and I'm sharing my darkness, it's often met with, you need to pray, you just need to have faith, God works in mysterious ways, what am I missing? It's all part of God's plan, etc., etc., etc. And whether a person is religious or not, that can be very invalidating and unhelpful. No, that is very invalidating and unhelpful. And in many cases, that can actually be harmful, because it's so invalidating of how they feel and what they're going through. So even if that's your perspective, and that's completely fine, that could be very damaging to another person, even if they are a person of faith, because then they internalize that of, I'm not doing enough, it's my fault, I'm not good enough in some way, like I'm not good enough for God. When you're saying things like, you just need to have faith, or you're not praying hard enough, things like that, it can come off like that. But the words of the prophets in the subway walls, that was really telling to me. I really liked that, because that kind of means to me that living a spiritual life, or living Christ-like, in what most Christians would interpret Christ-like as being, means truly caring for the downtrodden and truly caring for the people who are struggling. So it's kind of taking that, don't just say, I'm praying for you, unless that's all you have is to send positive energy, that's fine. But instead of that just being the default, really reflect and consider, can I maybe do something to truly help this person, even if it's just sitting down and really truly listening. So when he's talking about hearing without listening, you can repeat back what someone said without actually understanding where they're coming from. And for those of us that are struggling, that's what we truly genuinely want, is to be heard and understood. So when somebody's in that dark place, they just want you to truly understand where they're coming from. So I'm not saying anything to knock any type of religion or faith or anything. I think that's great if that helps you. But when someone is struggling, they're really wanting to be heard, and they're really wanting people to understand that their struggles are valid, and not just say, well, this is your fault, just go outside, or you should have done this, or you should do this. It's okay to say, hey, have you considered this? Or, hey, I've noticed some of these things, and is that really helping your mental health? Is that really helping you move toward healing, move in the right direction? There's definitely positive ways to say anything, or maybe even, would it help if we prayed together, or something like that? If a person's religious, would it help if we prayed together? There's definitely validating and empowering and healing ways to incorporate these things. But that's just my take on the song. I really am grateful that this was introduced to me, because like I said, it gave me a very different side of Disturbed, of David, that I really, really loved, because it had more of a melancholy power to it. Like it had almost kind of a classical feel to it, with just the intensity of his gaze. I'm glad I watched the video for this as opposed to just listening to the song, because I feel like it made it that much more fiery, you know. But it's hard to explain that I feel like it was fire raging in a rainstorm. That's how I would have described this song. So thank you very much for recommending it. Make sure you're sharing your stories here in the comments. Good, bad, and crazy. That is how we shatter the mental health stigma. I love you guys so much. I will see you soon. Mwah!